our day to day life goes smoothly with the blessings of God. It is a prime belief of each and every religion. It may be Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Islamism, Christianity, Zoroastrian, whatever the religion may be. Every religion denotes that God is one. Love of God. God is love. Like this, so many ways. All are uniformly accepted that God is one. Every religion has its own spirituality. But nowadays, we people are struggling a lot, either by physically, mentally, economically, socially, in any other by means, because lack of spirituality in everyday life. We should possess spirituality to lead our day to day life peacefully. The word spiritual utters, people used to think like a saintlyhood or like a rishis or sages, etc. What is the meaning of spirituality? Spirituality power means nothing. One has to know oneself, that's all. We Atmanam Vidhi. You can understand about you, or you can improve yourself, your soul, yourself. Uddared Atmanatmanam Atmanam Avasadayet, according to Gita. We should know ourselves at first. That's a pathetic condition is this. We people never understand ourselves. We concentrate only on others. Others concentrate on us. This means what happens? Nobody concentrates on themselves. It's why these type of natural calamities, physical tortures, physical pains, loss of gains, everything happens, occurs. Therefore, we should adopt spirituality. You can believe any one of the God, in any one of the religion. All religion equally says God is one, work is worship, love mother and father. Is it? Obey the words of elders. All religions say same thing. They stick on to these spiritual things equally. Therefore, whatever it may be, whomsoever it may be, should think of oneself to attain peaceful and blissful life. First of all, we have to understand what is spirituality, how it gives attainment and decline of spirituality in our life. And there are so many methods to understand about the spirituality gradually in our day-to-day life. And also application of spirituality in everyday life. Like this, so many ways are there to understand the essence of life. Therefore, we should concentrate at first on ourselves. Later only others. Not even later, nothing. Everyone thinks of good of their own. The world is peaceful. This is a main root cause of lacking spirituality in one's life. Therefore, today I took the topic of spirituality in everyday life. Start with prayer. Stutva Vishnum Vasudevam Vipapo Jayate Naraha Vishno Sampujanan Nityam Sarva Papam Pranashyati. What is spirituality? Spirituality is to have the awareness that you are a soul and not the body. It is also to have the awareness that you are a child of the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Father, whom we call God. Is it? It is to have the understanding that all souls are brothers, which is in reality the genesis of brotherhood with the fatherhood of one. The awareness that you are a soul and not this body while performing actions is to function in soul consciousness. To function in soul consciousness is constant remembrance of the qualities and attributes of the Supreme Soul, is to serve in God consciousness, to make truth with good manners the embodiment of your thoughts, words, and actions is purity, and the involuntary practice of this spirituality in everyday life is to possess divinity or to earn Shakti. To be unmovable and unshakable in this path is to have the control of the mind, where both the mind and intellect work in harmony. To realize this harmony, one must have the knowledge of the functions of the soul's faculties, namely the mind, intellect, and subconscious. In summary, spirituality in everyday life is to cause no sorrow and take no sorrow. Attainment and decline of spirituality. What is this? To live a successful spiritual life, one must be a complete renunciate of the vices of anger, greed, arrogance, lust, and attachment. These 5 vices are the evil spirits called Ravan or Maya. These vices were acquired and are not innate to the soul. It is these vices that creates the wheel of Maya and eclipse the original innate virtues, blocking out happiness and bringing sorrow to the soul. Souls experience happiness and sorrow according to their own karma. Every human soul has to experience suffering through the body for wrong actions it has performed, because all good and bad samskaras are recorded in the soul. Only the Supreme Soul is the remover of sorrow and the bestower of happiness. Method to remove sorrow and bestow happiness. The Supreme Father says, Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuttanamadharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever there is a decline in righteousness and increase in unrighteousness, O Arjuna, at that time I manifest myself on earth. He incarnates to destroy the vices and re-establish righteousness, peace, prosperity, and happiness. The method he teaches is to imbibe inculcate and practice the virtues of tolerance, contentment, humility, purity, and detachment. This is accomplished by being unmovable and unshakable impurity of thoughts, words, and deeds. This is in essence of the art of positive thinking, as thoughts are the seed or genesis of all words and actions. The rewards are based on the motive of the actions and not the actions per se. The rewards of the actions performed with selfless motivation are far greater than those performed with selfish motivation. This is essence in the law of cause and effect, which is but the universal spiritual law of karma. Thoughts and ideas, concepts and knowledge, experience and perceptions are not physical things. They are spaceless, subtle, and metaphysical in nature. When you pass on physical things, they are no longer in your possession. But when you pass on knowledge, it remains undiminished. The more you impart spiritual knowledge, the more you receive same to continue giving, and the more you are blessed. This is a paradox which says giving is receiving. For to give, you must have first received. Application of spirituality in everyday life. Spirituality, therefore, can be defined as the embodiment of the virtues of tolerance, contentment, humility, purity, and detachment in your thoughts, such that its manifestation in words, actions, and relationship being benefit to the self, to others in society, to the environment, and to God. If it is not beneficial to all four conditions, then there are some weaknesses or defects in the original thoughts, and such thoughts must be checked and changed before manifestation. This takes effort, courage, determination, and eternal vigilance, for it sounds easy, but it is difficult to practice. This is because the vices never go away. They lie dormant, waiting patiently for you to drop your guard and become weak before attacking. The vices of lust and anger are the most vicious, although all five attack at the same time. This is the reason it is advised that one must make effort to be in a state of soul consciousness and perform actions in God consciousness. This is your spiritual guard or protection. This is the essence of practicing spirituality in everyday life. This practice brings the greatest pleasure for the least expenditure. It costs no money, as all you have to pay is attention. Two entities of the human being. The two entities of human being are the body and the soul. The body comprises of the five elements majestically assembled together. It is normally prepared biologically by two parents whom we call mother and father. That body in its very early stages is called the fetus. The soul enters in the fetus, giving life to it. It is the soul that makes the body walk, talk, and perform actions. The mind creates all thoughts. The intellect makes the decisions, and subconscious records all the actions. It is only when the soul enters a body it can perform actions. Electricity is energy, but it is called heat in cooking, light in bulbs, power in machinery, and coolness in refrigeration. But in essence, it is still electricity. In the same way, when the spiritual energy of the soul expresses itself as thoughts or feelings, it is called the mind. When it expresses understanding, reasoning, or judgment, it is the intellect. When it recalls our past experiences or actions, it is called the memory. The nature, form, and home of the soul. The soul is a tiny, oval shaped point of white concise light that is imperishable, incorporeal, and eternal. Its original nature is of peace, silence, and purity. Its original home is soul's world, also called Paramadhama Brahmaloka, land of peace or nirvana. There are three worlds, namely the soul's world, the angelic or the subtle world, and this planet called Earth. Both the angelic and soul's world are far beyond the sun, moon, and stars. The angelic world is predominantly white light where there is action but no sound. The soul here has a subtle body of the white light, unlike on earth, where the body is flesh, fluids, and bones. In the soul's world, there is no sound or action. Soul's world is oval shaped and is permeated with a golden red light called the Brahma element. Souls sit in a pyramidal structure according to their spiritual effort and the level of purity attained at the end of the cycle. In the soul's world, all souls are 16 celestial degrees are equivalent to 100% purity. All souls must leave the soul's world and come to play their soul on the earth in the form of a role. Those at the top of the pyramid with the highest level of the purity leave first and others follow effort-wise. No soul can return home until end of the cycle. Now, births, lifespan, ages, and populations. A cycle or kalpa is 5,000 years. The cycle has 4 equal ages in golden, silver, copper, and iron. There is a small age or era of 1,000 years, 100 years that overlaps the end of the Iron Age and is called Confluence Age and written in the Gita as Purushottama Sangama Yuga. In the Golden Age, the maximum number of births is 21 and 42 respectively in the copper and iron ages, and the lifespan are reduced drastically. There is one birth in the Confluence Age, making it a total or possible maximum of 84 births in a cycle. The population at the end of the Golden Age is about 330 million. In 1600 AD, the population was about 500 million. The slow growth resulted from losses due to Noah's flood at the beginning of the Copper Age. In 1800 AD, it was 1000 million. In 1930 AD, it was 2000 million. In 1950 AD, it was 2390 million. In 1960 AD, 66 AD, it was 3200 million. In 1980, it was 4414 million, and 1995 it was about 5550 million. Yes, in the last 100 years, the world's population has more than doubled. Notable, however, there has been report from any source of significant increases in population, and it is simply quoted as 6 billion. The two halves of the cycle are known as heaven and hell. The gold and silver ages are called heaven. This half is also referred to as the day of Brahma, paradise or Ramarajya, and is 2500 years. The copper and iron ages called hell are the dark ages. This half is also referred to as the night of Brahma or Ravan Rajya and is 2500 years. Heaven is regarded as a period of knowledge or jnana, and the human beings are called deities. Hell is regarded as a period of devotion or bhakti, and the people are called ordinary human beings having lost their deity status at the end of the Silver Age. The last 100 years mean the Confluence Age is regarded as the period of Vairag, disinterest or renunciation. The knowledge to create heaven is taught in the Confluence Age when there is realization, renunciation, transformation, and purification of all souls. Brahmins, deities, warriors, merchants, and Shudras. God Shiva incarnates into the body of Brahma at the beginning of the confluence and imparts the essence of Gita through Brahma. These who imbibe and inculcate this knowledge and are transformed are called the mouth-born progenies of Brahma and are known as Brahmins. Brahmins experience only one birth and they exit only in the Confluence Age. Brahmins are born as deities in their next 8 births, the Golden Age, known as the Sun Dynasty or Surya Vamshi, and ruled by Lakshmi and Narayana, the first to the 8. Their next 12 births and known as Kshatriyas are the warrior class. Because the purity of the deities decreases from 16 to 14 celestial degrees are equivalent to 87% purity. Kshatriyas are ruled Rama and Sita, the first to the 12th, as there are 12 kingdoms in the Silver Age, also known as the Moon Dynasty Chandravamshi. However, it must be noted that Kshatriyas are still called deities, but the distinction is made to show decline in purity. There was one religion called the Adi Santana Devi Devata Dharma, or the deity religion that existed in the Golden and Silver Ages. Their next 21 births that of merchants in the Copper Age. It is at the beginning of the Copper Age that devotion or bhakti began, as well as the emergence of the other 4 main religions. The main 4 religions that engaged after the deity religion were Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. Hinduism is a continuation of the remains of the deity religion, at the end of the Silver Age, and its devotees now called Hindus in the Copper Age. Their next 42 births are in the Iron Age with a host of languages and different systems of rule or governance. The cycle concludes with the last birth in the Kalpa as Brahmins, and the cycle repeats itself identically. Ages and stages of purity. The highest stage of purity of the soul, body, and the elements is at the beginning of the Golden Age. The coronation of Lakshmi and Narayana as a first empress and emperor of the Golden Age. Golden Age is celebrated as Diwali and dated as 010101. The highest stage of purity is then 16 celestial degrees and exists at the start of the Golden Age. At this point, the descent of purity begins for all three, namely soul, body, and the elements. The period of the descent continues to the end or the Iron Age. For the soul, the stage of the ascent begins at the Confluence Age, the last 100 years that overlaps the Iron Age. The Confluence Age begins with the incarnation of the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Father, God Shiva. Shiva descends when irreligiousness, unrighteousness, and lawlessness prevail on earth as stated in Gita. This is also the beginning of Mahabharata War. The Mahabharata War is part subtle and incognito and part physical. The subtle part is a war between the vices and virtues. The soul adopts the teaching of the Gita as imparted by God Shiva through the body of Brahma. Those transformed through the mouth of Brahma are called Brahmins and attain the highest level of the purity of the soul. To imbibe, inculcate, and practice the knowledge of the Gita is to attain realization, transformation, and purification of the soul, and this is known as dance knowledge. The elements are purified by the physical part of the Mahabharata war. When the five elements begin cooperation and cleanse themselves by catastrophic and cataclysmic means, air cleanses itself through hurricanes, tornadoes, and monsoons, while water through floods, earth through earthquakes, heat through nuclear bombs, and sky through radiation of the sun via the ozone layer. See how? The purification of the elements is called the Dance of Shiva, Shiva Tandava. When the elements become pure by the dance of Shiva, it is only then one can be born with a pure body. Brahmins attains the highest level of purity of the soul, but still have an impure body, as the elements are still impure when they take this divine birth. In the Confluence Age, these are deep, subtle matters that need churning and meditative introspection. Purity and births. In the Confluence Age, people would imbibe and inculcate the knowledge of the Gita as imparted by God Shiva number-wise. This is why it is said that only a few in a million and a few out of that few will accept this knowledge. This is the genesis of the saying that many are called but few are chosen. The Brahmin who take this knowledge and undergo transformation through purification would take birth number-wise as deities in the Golden Age and Silver Ages. It is said, as are your thoughts, so are your births. The purest of them who were able to conquer the five vices would take birth as deities in the Sun dynasty or Golden Age under the rule of Lakshmi and Narayana. This is what is meant by changing from ordinary man called Nar to elevated perfect man called Narayana. Nar to Narayana. Those who were still fighting with their yoga to defeat the vices as recommended by the most powerful mantra of the Gita, Manmana Bhava, which means to fix your mind on me, would take birth as Kshatriyas in the Silver Age in the kingdom of Rama and Sita. Others who bargaining with the gods saying that if I give so much donation or perform this charity, can I get so and so in return? These would take birth in the Copper Age or Dwapara as Vaishyas or merchants. And finally, those who are constantly begging, God gives me wealth, son, this and that, they would continue to beg and be born as Sudras in the Iron Age. The law of karma is universal. Spirituality and authority. In the Golden Age, there are 8 dynasties ruled by Lakshmi and Narayana. The first, the 8. There was one religion, one government, one people, one law, and one language. There were no advisors or opposition as we know it today. The rulers were known as empresses and emperors, and the governments were termed dynasties. There was no separation between the religion or church and authority. The rulers wore 2 crowns. One was a physical crown made of gold studded with diamond, which was the symbol's authority of rulership. The other was the crown of purity. That was shone as a halo of white light. This crown of white light was symbolic of purity. In other words, the rulers were titled His Holiness and Highness. Finally, spirituality in everyday life is by example. To conclude, it is important to note that spirituality is more often caught rather than taught. Every word and every action from a spiritual teacher or spiritual leader must be pure with selfless motivation. If truth, trust, and respect are absent in the family unit, then it is not likely to spread further. Spirituality is to take information, churn, imbibe, inculcate that information to the extent of practicing and having experiences. It is only then information becomes knowledge. When this knowledge becomes an almost involuntary practice, then you become experienced and you acquire wisdom only to be called wise or a sage. श्रीकांताय कल्याण नदे नदे द्राम श्री वेंकटनिवासाय श्रीनिवासाय मंगलम मंगलाशासन प्रैर्मदाचार्य पुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्ये सत्कृतायास्तु मंगलम्.